recording is now in progress. Okay. You heard that, right? Everybody
Yes.
hears that. Yeah, I think everyone's supposed to hear that. Okay, I guess let's go on and do a zone here. Although I do want to just get my pages queued up to. Oh, I got rid of one page. Okay, that was stupid of me.
And I'm sorry I can't ever share my notes. Like, I mean, if I took screenshots of them, I guess with my phone, but yeah, I don't type them up. They're all handwritten.
Well, in my case, I didn't share my notes
Yeah.
this time, did I?
I
But
know I missed that this time. I liked your notes last time.
oh, sorry. Yeah, yeah, you should have done that. Again, I got up and got. I saw that you had the login. And I saw that
Yeah.
my
Sorry
phone
to
was
make
like
you rush on there like
in
that
15
because yeah.
minutes. No, the 15 minutes things what really got me. So I was like, oh crap. But and then when I got on to Zoom, it did say 8:30, not 7:30. So I don't. I guess Zoom is just playing some mind games, which
Yeah. Power of the mind games of Zoom.
fugitive, so many fugitives. The Twilight Zone's not even on the basic list. Okay.
You know what's funny? Like, I know we haven't officially started yet, but we're recording. But this episode, The Fugitive, and then the lead who plays the old man Ben, Pat O'Malley, he actually played in The Fugitive. He played in 2 episodes of The Fugitive, so he was in the episode The Fugitive of the Twilight Zone, and in 2 episodes of the actual Fugitive, the TV show.
Oh, I have to add that in because actually
Yeah.
did not catch that. Okay, so that's a good
Yeah.
add in.
Oh, and if you wanted to add one more just for Susan Gordon, she also played in a Hitchcock Presents called Summer Shade.
Was Susan Gordon was okay.
Yeah, that was
Ironically,
the one who played Jenny,
right,
the little
right.
girl. Yeah,
And two and whoa, not whoa.
I
Two.
couldn't find much about the other. Well, then of course we know, you know, I don't know if you recognize the ant in this episode.
Fugitive. Beverly Hillbillies.
Yeah,
That's mainly what they say on the wiki. So that's
yeah,
why I'm just like I'll just click on the wiki page and say it because that should
yeah,
cover it. And then those two men in black or whatever they are, servants or
yeah. I
whatever.
really couldn't find much about those guys.
Yeah, actually, I might
Yeah,
just skip them then.
yeah, yeah. No, really, there's just 3 stars, and this one, I would say.
My version he also appeared in presents. There we go. Okay, and then I just have to do Miss Gad. What was her name?
Gad? Oh, Miss Gannon. Gannon. You're talking about the ant's character?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Miss Gannon.
Or is it
Yeah, it's like
Gan?
Ganon, I think,
Oh,
or
actually, no, it
Gann.
is Miss. It's Gan Miss Gann. It's listed. She's
Oh,
listed as Mrs. Gan, but I didn't see.
why did I think Gannon? I don't know.
Because that sounds more like a name, I guess.
Yeah.
And, while I'm at it, I'll just have a quick squiz at these two guys
She
because I
was
do have the other two guys' names out. So, best known for Perry Mason. I've said that an awful lot, haven't I?
yeah.
Appearances. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of things for Wesley Lau, although there is a nice picture of him on Wiki. Paul Tripp. Tripp was the creator of Tuba, classical music for children. Okay, whatever. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna kind of skip those guys because they're not
Yeah.
that fascinating.
No.
But I did have the
No, and then
idea.
the main guy that played Ben, the J Pat O'Malley. I don't know why
Mm-hmm.
we have to call him J Pat O'Malley, but um he was also in 3 other episodes of the Twilight Zone, but in only one of them he's kind of recognizable. It's a season 5 episode. But when he plays in the Chaser, I'd have to go back and watch and see which part he played because I don't remember. They list his name, but
Yeah, in the fifth season, there's a fifth season one where it says he just like appears and like he's not one of the leads or something.
well,
So
yeah, well, no, in the fifth, there, the Mr. Garrity in the Graves, he plays like a town drunk, and he complains about his wife who broke her arm a couple times, and he wants to bring her back from the dead. But
I think it's the self improvement of Salvador
oh, that's the one.
Westerman.
No, that's a season 5 one too. That's a great episode. But yeah, he doesn't play a big character in that one.
Yeah, he just appears in
Yeah,
that one. So
yeah.
Okay, let me give a 5 second break to spot, and then I will start the show.
Okay.
Hello, welcome to Time Enough Podcast. It's where we jump into all of the episodes of The Twilight Zone and beyond. This is Matt here. Returning back is Sean. Hi, how are you?
Oh, just in my nice cold house, avoiding the heat outside.
Yeah,
You
what
know?
was the temperature? You said Celsius 43, which is Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
What is it? I mean,
Oh,
I used to be
I
able
think
like
it's like 109, 110. Yeah.
oh yeah, that sounds like a terrible
Yeah.
number. Okay,
Yeah.
now I get it. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
from America. I still, it's
Yeah.
like I hear 43. I'm like, wow, that's really hot. But still, yeah, I have a slightly different feeling when someone says Fahrenheit. So
Yeah. I have a friend in Israel and he just can't get over that we use Fahrenheit and everything else. He's like, I can't believe you Americans. You're the only ones.
having lived abroad for a while, yeah,
Yeah.
things that don't make sense anymore are the
Yeah.
imperial system and daylight savings time. Also, doesn't
Yeah.
make sense to me anymore.
You know,
So
I thought US was doing away with that, but I don't think it went through. So I think we're still have to put up with that.
yeah, Japan's never picked it up. We do have, and being in this part of the time zone, we do get in summer like the sun's out like 4 in the morning, so that sucks. But
Yeah.
I have kind of thick curtains, so maybe it doesn't matter. But yeah, I do wake up pretty early, um, which is neither here nor there for this because today's episode of the Twilight Zone is the Fugitive, the one with the one-armed man and Barry Morse. Now, actually, Barry Morse was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, but
Hey, one thing about these Twilight Zone episodes are you kind of noticing things are somewhat being a little tame on these episodes you're kind of falling into right now. You're like you got Myrtle Bank, you got I mean, I guess you got Piano in the House, that's a little dark and
I think we
uh
noticed in the first season things getting a little more chill near the end. I mean, you still have
yeah,
stuff like the after hour, so it's not too chill.
yeah,
Maybe it's like season two because season two ended with like shadow play and stuff and the obsolete man. So yeah, the end
yeah.
of season two is pretty hardcore. And then the earlier part of season three was, I mean, we had Death's Head Revisited and what else was kind of hardcore in there? There was one or other two other ones where yeah. Um, so I guess it's a tail end. Yeah, Hocus Pocus
And
with
then also in season
Shatner's
three, I
coming.
this might be I'm thinking season three might have the most comedy episodes out of any of them.
Well, it has the most episodes, so
Well, yeah, because you got the Carol Burnett one, you got the showdown with Rance McGrew, you got that one. Um, I'm blanking on the other two right now.
although
There's like,
this seems more like a sweet episode than a comedy episode with the Fugitive, I'd say. Like
well,
I didn't laugh at it. I mean, I didn't it didn't make me laugh much, you know.
at the end of this episode, Rod Serling calls this a love story. So,
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So
well,
yeah, kind of
which I
a
will bring
off
up,
piece.
which is actually sparked a little controversy in this episode that I never knew existed until I watched a podcast on this episode last year. But we'll get to that when
Yeah, I certainly had a few things where I was like, this doesn't quite work now. And
yeah.
but we'll get into that a little bit. But let me start off and do the trivia for The Fugitive. The original air date was March 9th, 1962. Regular Twilight Zone director Richard L. Bear is back, as is a teleplay by regular contributor Charles Beaumont. As is Charles Beaumont with a teleplay. Sorry, I teach English and I was sitting there reading. That grammar is straight up wrong. Okay. J. Pat O'Malley played Old Ben. He was a British born character actor who appeared in films such as 10 Little Indians and Dial M for Murder. He also contributed voice work to Disney films such as Alice in Wonderland, The Jungle Book, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, and Mary Poppins, where he apparently was Dick Van Dyke's Cockney voice coach, although you could also see that as a bad thing. O'Malley will appear in two more episodes of The Twilight Zone. Ironically, he was also in two episodes of the TV show The Fugitive. Jenny was played by Susan Gordon. She had a notable career as a television child actor, appearing in My Three Sons, The Danny Thomas Show, and a live telecast of Miracle on 42nd Street. She
Ah,
also appeared in Alfred Hitchcock Presents for something a little more Twilight Zone adjacent. Miss Gann was played by Nancy Culp. If you find yourself recognizing her face, it was probably as Miss Jane Hathaway on the CBS television series The Beverly Hillbillies. There are a lot of hillbillies in season 3 of The Twilight Zone for whatever reason. If we're looking for trends,
Yeah.
I
You
feel
get some
like we,
Pennycoat Junction, you get some Green Acres, you get some Beverly Hillbillies.
yeah, but especially the hillbillies are just all over, and so many
Yeah.
hillbilly episodes.
Get some
Where
Earl Hamner Jr.
yeah, where I think that's confusing me. I think I was like trying a few weeks ago thinking was that one of Montgomery Pittman, and then I was like, no, I listened
when
to
you
my own
when you get to
podcast.
season 5 and you watch this episode called Stop Over at a Quiet Town, I don't know if you've ever seen it before, but that was one episode you're going to be like, I can't believe this is Earl Hamner Jr. This isn't like any of his other episodes.
This isn't like the Waltons, or maybe it is like the Waltons. I don't know. I don't. I never saw much of the Waltons though. That being Earl Hamner Jr.'s later TV show, of
Yeah,
course.
you
But for
know,
the
I'll watch Petticoat Junction. I'll watch the Beverly Hillbillies. I don't watch Green Acres or the Waltons. I don't know. I don't
yeah, the
watch them.
Waltons, I don't just seemed as a child, it seemed like extremely unappealing for some reason. I'm not quite
Yeah,
sure why. I mean, I always say I remember one of my first memories is being 3 years old and arguing with my parents because they wanted to watch MASH and I wanted to watch the Muppet Show. Uh,
yeah,
both were correct. Both were correct. Opinions. Maybe it's like the end. Maybe it's like the last episode of MASH. I don't. In my mind, it was just like they wanted to watch this like really green show about a war, and I wanted to see a green frog. So because I'm thinking, why wouldn't you let a 3-year-old watch the Muppet Show, right? And I'm like, oh, that when I was 3, that would have been about the time MASH was ending, so that might have been
yeah.
why.
You get a little bit of MASH in a Muppet Show. You get Veterinarian Hospital.
Oh yeah. Well, that's more like after MASH, I guess. But
Yeah,
which I think I also had a conversation where people thought I made up that show because nobody watched it. I haven't seen it, so yeah.
hey,
But
I noticed your screen sharing on my end, and usually I know we read the prologue or the opening narration, but that is not what's on my screen right now. Or is it not supposed to be yet?
really, it's not.
Yeah, I
That's
just got
weird.
the trivia on here right now.
You got my trivia? What is going
Yeah, I
on?
just got the J. Pat O'Malley trivia on here right now.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I see. Okay, good call there. Now I have an edit point to make. Okay, because I was doing it while talking. That's why I forgot to do it before we started. Hold on a moment. And now that I got to edit anyway, just give me a moment to format it so it's
Okay.
readable.
At least I got a nice short one. I'm always worried if I get a long one, like how I would do, like what I start flubbing over my words or
This one's pretty average, I think.
yeah, pretty short and sweet.
I mean, at least you didn't end up on It's a
Yeah.
Good Life, where you
Yeah.
have to read a book.
Yeah.
Okay, if you could give us a quick read of the trivia of the prologue, not the trivia.
Before I read this, I wish I could do the dry teeth thing and the tucked back lip. I forget which one of your guests does that, but I don't
That's
think I could
Andrew.
even do.
I'm not sure. I don't think I mean, hey, I'll do the first sentence since I always make everyone. You can still get the prologue, of course, but okay. Let me give the first sentence a try. I'll see if it's been said that science fiction and fantasy are two different things. See, I can't do it. That's why I ask guys
No.
to do it.
Yeah.
I don't practice it. I make other people do it. Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna read it, but pretend this is Rod Serling, even though I sound nothing like him. It's been said that science fiction and fantasy are two different things. Science fiction, the improbable made possible. Fantasy, the impossible made probable. What would you have if you put these two different things together? Well, you would have an old man named Ben who knows a lot of tricks most people don't know, and a little girl named Jenny who loves him, and a journey into the heart of the Twilight Zone.
You can get into some heated arguments with the first half of that prologue on the internet message boards now, like trying to say science fiction and fantasy are two different things or the same thing. I guess that's you get into a proper dork
Oh,
argument with those.
what's sad about the internet now is you can get into a debate with hard shell or soft shell. Like,
Oh,
crushed ice or cubed ice. Like it's just people will fight anything just to defend their side. You know what I mean? Like it's just
yeah, I've heard a jokingly very heated one about vegan bacon, so that was kind of fun. What do you think? Vegan bacon, is it still bacon?
yeah.
I don't know.
I guess if they can make impossible burgers and all that. Do you guys got those impossible burgers in Japan? Those plant-based burgers?
Maybe, especially Tokyo, but it's Japan's a little weird. Like it's actually quite difficult to be a vegetarian in Japan. So,
Yeah.
especially when I first came, like about 20 years ago, I remember some vegetarians and they, do you have anything vegetarian? We have a salad, and they'd serve them a salad with like a bunch of bacon bits on it. Like that, they thought that was vegetarian, right? It's like, no, you're not quite getting it. Me not having that problem because I wasn't a vegetarian, but yeah,
Yeah.
even yesterday, we had a guest with us and had to ask about like the pork content of the dishes, so
Yeah.
because he couldn't eat pork. So yeah, Japan doesn't want you to like customize your food. It's kind of like you're supposed to like trust what the kitchen's doing because you're there, I think is the thought. So conversely, you don't have to leave tips, or nobody leaves tips, I should say. It would be weird to leave a tip because that's also assumed like the service is part of the deal, right? So
Wow.
there's some big cultural differences, but as far as fake meat, well, there I remember my friend, he would actually he's been on here. Scott was on an episode, but we had a running joke because he told me the story like on 5 separate occasions of where a scientist in Kyoto University had made basically a poop burger. Um,
Oh,
so we'd have a few drinks and he'd tell me the story again, and then just became a running joke where he'd just start telling me the story just any old time because it was, by that time it was funny. Hey, have you ever heard the story? That sort of thing.
so
Um,
real quick, getting to this episode. So we got the opening. We're playing baseball. We're playing baseball here with the old man Ben. I guess he's taking turns on both teams because I don't know if that worked how you were with when you were a kid. Like you having an adult play with you. Like if you played football, the adult was quarterback for both teams, or if he was the pitcher for both teams, or like, what I'm trying to get here. Like if an adult's
yeah,
playing with you,
I was
because
never like a big sports guy, but I guess in the Boy
yeah,
Scouts who would have had that. And I'm trying to remember. I don't feel like the adults got that involved. I don't
mhm,
I don't know. Yeah.
yeah,
So we did a
and
little
then
baseball and I was bad at it. I mostly remember running around a building like tackling each other for an hour or whatever, like 20 boys, which I guess that's what boys do.
well, I saw a couple weeks ago you wanted to put up what was it? Yeah, you were putting up a description for one of the episodes that you put on Patreon, and you were gonna hint at a game you used to play, and I think it's
That's
called
it.
Smear,
Yes, it is.
Smear
Yes, it
something.
is. Yes, it is.
we
Oh,
won't
well,
we won't go any
we
further.
we won't go any further in that, but that
Yeah,
is the correct game. So yes, that is what I was referring
yeah.
to.
I think
Which
my generation might have been the last generation to play that game.
yeah,
Like,
oh, I'm
yeah,
sure people still play it. They hopefully just
yeah.
have a different name for
Well, yeah,
it.
officially call it that. Like, my
um,
generation was the generation we couldn't play tetherball because we got too rough with it.
no, what I keyed in on more from that first scene was the tree-based rocket ship because I do remember doing that at a
Yeah,
tree outside of my elementary school in the first grade, like on multiple occasions going inside. And in my memory, it actually looks like it's like a amber hued, like steampunky ship or something, right?
yeah.
That's my memory, even though yeah, it was just a tree, right? So the magic worked, I guess, in that case.
So I got two questions with them playing baseball. Okay, one, why did Ben have to show off by knocking it out of the park with a homer? Why did he could have just hit a ground ball? Maybe a little pop fly. He didn't have to use all his powers.
Yeah, they were kind
Yeah,
of goading him on to do that though. So
yeah. Well, I guess they were goading him a little bit. And then another thing too, how do you think Jenny runs them braces with that knee brace?
with practice, I'm not sure. So
And another thing, those knee braces, did they give you Forrest Gump vibes? I guess that's the way knee braces were back then, but I kind of got, well, I'm assuming you've seen Forrest
oh
Gump,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
Okay, yeah.
yeah. I
The
get
knee braces kind of gave me Forrest Gump vibes a little bit. She had one though, not
because
two.
that's when he's got him. He meets Elvis, right? So it'd be like 54.
Yeah,
So maybe yeah, it seems about right time wise.
yeah,
Yeah, because now I see more like kind of nylon vinyl ones that people can Velcro onto their legs, I guess, is more. Although no, you still have to have some heavy duty ones sometimes. So yeah, depends
I
on
mean,
what you're.
and then if she does get a hit, do they just like let her get to first base just because she disabled, or do they can she not make it to first base? I know it's not pretty messed up saying that.
Are a bunch of 6 and 7 year olds like maybe they're a little older than that, but
Yeah,
are they actually keeping score is also a good question. I know
yeah, no, that's another thing.
sometimes playing with kids or as a
Oh,
kid
I
playing
don't
with
know.
other
Jenny
kids.
got into a pretty heated argument. She got right up on that dude's face and started arguing. I
Yeah, I
forget what
guess
she.
because they're on TV. So yeah, I
Yeah,
guess that's right.
yeah. She was arguing like those two guys were in Mr. Dingle the Strong, Don Rickles and another guy.
Better, yeah, better than that though. I think I was
Yeah.
actually in a conversation. Yeah, again, I was talking to Scott already mentioned here, and he was like, "Oh, are there any truly bad episodes of Twilight Zone?" And I said, "I think we have a couple." I was like, I went back for Mr. Dingle the Strong.
You want to know what seems to be the two most obvious answers for people, and they're not necessarily mine.
Go for it,
Cabin Deer is coming.
right?
That for some reason people just can't stand that with a passion. I don't know if it's because of the laugh track. I don't know if it's because Carol Burnett. I don't know if it's because it's comedy and it's not Twilight Zone like.
I
And
believe you're
then,
coming to the defense of that one later, so sure.
yeah, I will. And then the Baird from season 4. That's the one where Burt Reynolds mocks Brando in there. He has a scene where he mocks Brando. That's the Shakespeare one too. A lot of
Right,
people,
right.
and I thought that up like people built that episode to be up so like bad. When I saw it, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I mean, it's not a Twilight Zone episode. A lot of people say it's more like Rod Serling kind of giving his finger to the TV critics and stuff like that. But yeah, no, it didn't really bug me as much.
I guess the ones that usually I hear, which honest, I don't think maybe I've seen Black Leather Jackets before. I think I've seen that once, but I hear that usually
See,
cited.
that doesn't bug me either.
Yeah,
Like,
and the
uh,
Bewitching Pool, which I've not seen. So
well, I know when we'll get everybody about that one because that's the first thing that I noticed was June Foray. You know, the famous she voiced a lot of cartoon characters. She dubbed the little girl's voice in that, so that
makes it creepy,
and it was
maybe.
like a southern accent, so that made it just sound really weird.
Also, it was the final episode of the Twilight Zone, which might throw
Yeah.
people. Although it's an anthology show, so it's not like Star Trek Enterprise where everyone hates the last episode. Which, if it was like 3 episodes earlier, I don't think people would have a problem with it.
And
Which,
were season finales and stuff like that and series finales, were they as big back then? Something tells me they weren't.
no. I mean, shows
Yeah.
would just end. Uh, on our podcasting network, we recently did The Prisoner, and we were sitting saying like, is this the first like proper finale?
Mhm.
Which maybe it is. I mean, again, Twilight, Star Trek doesn't have a proper finale. This doesn't have a proper. Again, anthology show doesn't need one, but yeah, your sitcoms
Yeah.
would just end. So
Now, the Star Trek, is that one of those shows that gets taped out of order like a lot of other shows do?
it was broadcast somewhat out of order. That's correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that is so weird when shows do that.
A one now since we're talking finales on an episode that has nothing to do with them. um, I recently came across a clip where Webster is beamed onto the bridge of the Enterprise D to start a clip show with Commander Worf, Lieutenant Commander Worf. So that's weird enough. If you don't believe this exists, look it up. You can. It's a little hard to find the clip. Actually, it's not just like right there on YouTube, but if you do a search or two, you'll find it. And then I found out that was also the last episode of Webster, which it's just weird. You'd end your show with a clip show
So
that's a pointless crossover with Star Trek.
so Webster and Star Trek: The Next Generation had a crossover episode.
They're in the same universe. Yes.
Whoa, mind blown.
Yeah. The Websterverse includes Star Trek. Um,
Wow.
as for this one, my impressions, no slight on J. Pat O'Malley, classic actor, but just for the first 5 minutes, I was like, this can't be Brian Doyle Murphy. It's
I
like,
can see what you, oh, now I can see what you mean by that.
I guess you could
Yeah.
put Wilford Brimley in here too if you wanted. When he was 35.
Yeah.
But yeah. I wonder if this is the film's original like character actor old man. So
Mhm.
um and then the uncool Men in Black is what I referred to as the men chasing him in my notes. So although
Yeah.
one of them's in gray, so he's not in black, but yeah.
Have you ever seen Hocus Pocus and Frisbee yet?
I will be in a few weeks, but I have not
Oh,
yet
you've
watched
never
it.
seen that episode yet.
That is correct.
Oh, I cannot wait to see your thoughts on that one because that's one that kind of polarizes people too because it's comedy.
Okay, that's a requested one too. So
Yeah,
we'll see how that rolls out. I think that was because of the
nice.
actor that's in it, but yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Oh, Andy Devine. Yeah, he's pretty good. You know what? I didn't notice until later on that he actually voiced oh, was it Friar Tuck in Robin Hood, the Robin Hood cartoon?
Yeah,
I was,
we like in this episode we have recently
yeah.
had a lot of Disney voices, which is
Hmm.
me also doing the Disney podcast. I'm like, oh, that's a weird little bit of serendipity. So
Yeah. You get some Disney crossover.
yeah, I guess it's just there's so many people that come through a Twilight Zone. So you're like, why are all the Beverly Hillbillies in this like in today again? So
Yeah.
I guess Burbank wasn't that big a place in the '60s. Is the main answer there.
Another
Well,
connection too is you'll get some Batman 60s people in
yep.
Twilight Zone. Like you get Alfred in season 4. You get Julie Newmar in season 4. Um
Yeah,
who
just
else?
same
Yeah. There's a
people
couple
running
of them.
around. I
Yeah.
did recently watch a video, just because I look up weird ephemera where it was the cast of Gilligan's Island versus the cast of 66 Batman on the Family Feud. Bob Denver was not there to represent for Team Gilligan. Everyone else was there, I think. But the Batman team included Vincent Price. I was like, okay, that makes up for Bob Denver probably.
You know, I find this. I've never seen Bob Denver do anything except Gilligan,
Oh
ever.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, he's
I've never seeked out anything. I know he's done it. I've just never seeked it out. You know.
Dobie Gillis is, he was a beatnik on there before he was Gilligan. Basically playing the same shtick, right? But
Yeah.
as a beatnik. And then in the '70s, this is the one that I'm gonna suggest check out is Far Out Space Nuts, where he's Space Gilligan on a Sid and Marty Krofft show. So, that's like eight kinds of weird.
So, one thing with this episode, um, the interaction between Jenny and Ben, it was funny because these people are looking for him, the two Men in Black people, we're calling
Right.
them, and she's wondering why. Jenny's wondering why, and he's trying to tell her, and she starts asking him. She goes, "Are you a communist?" I'm like, what little girl would ask that?
In 1962. I don't know. Maybe he's probably from the
Well,
planet communist instead
yeah.
of his home planet.
I was thinking, yeah, that was definitely a product of the times right there. Because I don't think any little kid nowadays would be like, "Are you a communist?"
Yeah, it is a weird, like you're saying, it is a weird relationship. Although when you think about it, for maybe 3 more minutes, of course, we're seeing a little girl with a very old man, but I'm thinking, well, it's kind of like ET. ET just could not shapeshift, so
Yeah.
um,
We'll get to some of the weird quotes in here. Like, here's a weird one I noticed with Ben saying to Jenny. When Jenny asked why Ben couldn't fix her leg, knowing he had powers and stuff like that, he said that that he would not have the fun of carrying her anymore, and she would find herself a young boyfriend. Like, whoa.
she, yeah, one, yeah, she's too young for that, and two, when she's a little older, shouldn't she do that? But hey, he's an alien. He doesn't actually know that much about how Earth works, maybe.
Yeah,
So
and he's a couple thousand years old.
yeah. So I mean, I guess we give him like a little bit of leeway that he maybe doesn't understand how like human relationships function. Like, I mean, in any sense of the word.
Well,
So
given the way that this episode ends, and when we talk about more of this, well, he must really not understand things. Yeah.
yeah, like the things he changed. What do we get? We get that the fantastically derpy alien coming out of the tree. That was pretty cool. Um,
Oh yeah, yeah. The little that's like a little outer limitish, like outer limits type. And then
yeah, because
another thing, when he turned into the mouse, so she can sneak him into the bedroom.
Benny Mouse. Yeah.
He was like, "Oh, did I tickle you there?" her belly.
But I do feel like maybe it didn't sound that weird on 1962
No,
television. I
no,
think
just
that
like
really,
no, we got to put ourselves in like we're so like everything's under a microscope now back
Right.
then it wasn't like, it just wasn't like that.
Because there are some things, even in the Twilight Zone, where it's like, wow, that did not age well, you know. But in this case, I think it's us, not them, more of it. So, um,
Yeah.
I guess that, like you're saying though, the old man running around with the little girl relationship, that's the one that just feels a little weird because that still, I mean, that technically is still not okay in 1962. So, but looks a little more, I guess it feels a little more wholesome in a 1962 show. So,
Yeah. So I
um,
guess the whole reason Ben's here, he explains, he was a king and he got tired of his reign. He had a 5,000-year reign. Into 1,000 years, he decides, oh, I'm going to split. Now, I have to ask you, would you get bored after 1,000 years? Would you have made it to 1,000 years? What would you have done if you had a 5,000-year reign?
well, if you're living for 1,000 years, I mean, for thousands of years, maybe 1,000 years isn't that long. And
Mhm.
we kind of had this sort of kind of happen in Japan with the emperors, because traditionally you're an emperor until you die, right? So
Mhm.
starting around 2012, the emperor is like, I'm getting old. I think I just want to step down and let my son do it. It took like 5 years for the Japanese government to like allow him to do that. So, and yeah, and it was just like a big controversy because this guy's like, I don't want to do this anymore, you know. I'm getting
Yeah.
too old to do this. My health isn't good enough to do this. And even then it took like 5 years for Japan to allow him to do that. So I guess that's sort of similar to Benny's things. He just, he just absconds, he just gets out of there, right? So
I feel like that's been a repeated trope. Like, I can't think of what TV shows use that, but I've heard of that. Like, I've seen TV shows use that. Like, oh, I had a long reign for so many years. I got bored, so I abandoned and came to Earth. Like, have you seen that in other TV shows before? Because I know I have.
I was going to say I have. I was going to say if I want to be really cheeky, I could say Buddhism uses that. I mean, that's the Buddha's stories. He's kept in a palace, shielded
Yeah.
away from like everything bad. So the first time he gets out and notices that there is suffering in the world, he runs off and eventually becomes enlightened. Um,
Yeah.
I was wondering, like with Ben, I'm like, if he knows this much about matter, does that make him enlightened? Like he knows about the secrets of that, the microcosmos and stuff or something to manipulate matter. That's
And that, and in that 1,000-year reign, has he attempted to even have a queen?
is he a scrawl? He kind of is a scrawl, isn't he? That maybe that's why he can't show his actual form to Jenny. So
Well, no, Rod Serling shows us the actual picture of what he looks like.
oh,
Yeah,
right,
I
right,
can't
right.
remember that
Excuse
one.
me, I do
And
remember.
I was trying to find it because in the Twilight Zone podcast, or not, this is the Twilight Zone podcast. I'm at the Twilight Zone page, fan page on Facebook that I'm a part of. Somebody actually pointed out who that picture was, but I couldn't find it. I forgot what they told me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
when he first says, I'm just sitting there thinking about what he
Yeah.
looked like. That's why the joke maybe lands. I don't know. It's a pretty
Yeah.
throwaway joke, but you got to give Rod something to hold so he's less nervous on camera, I suppose.
Yeah.
um,
Oh, one funny line I noticed from Miss Gann in this, Nancy Culp's character. She calls Jenny, "You ungrateful little gutter snipe."
oh yeah, gutter snipe's a good one. Yeah, I think I think I kind of missed that because I was writing that I call my wife a monkey, but she doesn't like it. So
And then another one when she was in there after Ben was fixing her leg. She's like, "Who you talking to?" Jenny's like, "Myself." Well, quit doing that. You'll go crazy.
I've heard talking to yourself can actually be therapeutic. I don't know.
Well, I heard talking to yourself is fine. Just don't answer yourself. Then,
Okay, that might be it. Yeah. Um,
yeah.
regular co-host Luke, I've caught him doing a Sean Connery impression to himself. So, which is I appreciate that. That's great. So,
Oh, my favorite line that he does is, "I'm gonna go up there, get that son of a bitch Bison's ass so hard, the next Bison wannabe is gonna feel it." I love it when he says that line.
well, that's Jean-Claude Van Damme, but yes, sure.
Yeah.
But
No,
also
not
with
Sean
him.
Connery, but I was talking about Luke when he says
Oh,
that.
oh, oh!
Yeah.
As far as doing voices,
Yeah.
okay, that's cool.
Yeah. But
um,
I never really noticed that line sticking out before. And then I was like, oh yeah, that fucking line. He's dropped it on a couple podcasts before you guys actually film an episode.
Yeah, well, also that sometimes they're recorded in bizarre order, so that also has
Yeah,
to do with it. Um,
yeah,
I did like the Sonic Whisk. I wrote the Sonic Whisk because of the Sonic Screwdriver. They didn't call it anything, but that really lo-fi alien gadget. I like that sort
yeah.
of thing. So I was happy to
And
see that another Outer Limits kind of looking thing.
yeah,
So
that's the same like sci-fi sound clip you get in those 50s, 60s TV shows. And you actually get that same sound clip in a couple Twilight Zone episodes and a couple season 4 episodes, as a matter of fact.
so yeah, I
It's like
mean
when they want to when they want to show something's like doing power, they do the I
that
can't
seems
even do the
powerful
sound,
enough.
but
I
yeah.
I think it 2015, 2016 Ghostbusters that with their TK meters were like that as well, which I liked. So kind of going old school sci-fi with those.
Yeah.
I'm a supporter of that movie, by the way. I think it's great. So I know I know most people don't like hearing that, but
Well, hey, I like some, I like some different movies and some sequels. Like I was one of the few people that liked Viva Rock Vegas, Flintstone. Like
oh
not it's
yeah,
not as good as the 94 one, but I do like Viva Rock Vegas.
right. No, we did that one. We all
You know
enjoyed
the
it.
one that
So
blew my mind though is you that says you like Anchorman 2 more?
yes,
I don't
that
know
is
about
correct. I know
that.
that's an unpopular opinion, but I
Yeah.
just yeah. I'll go to the map for
You don't have a
Anchorman
problem
2.
with the first one though, right? You
Oh,
know,
the
no
first one's
problem.
great. I just like the
Yeah.
second one better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same with Wayne's World. I like the first one great, but I have a
You
weird
know,
love for the second one.
I could see that because number 2, that's the one with Christopher Walken, right?
Christopher Walken and Aerosmith. Yeah.
Yeah, Wayne Stock. Yes.
That's prime Aerosmith when they you could almost still consider them real rockers, but they've definitely entered like their cheeseball phase. Like I
Yeah.
enjoy listening to bad Aerosmith more than good Aerosmith. So I want to put on Jaded or something, right? So
Yeah.
the 70s stuff and I mean it's great, of course, but yeah, I want to
Yeah.
hear bad 90s Aerosmith. So
Well, they got that one music video in the 90s, that one with oh god, what's her name? The one that played in Clueless.
Alicia Silverstone, yeah, she's in a couple
Yes.
of them. Yes,
Yeah.
that is correct.
Yeah.
So that just hits the sweet spot of like cheesiness for me. So
Yeah.
um, this episode maybe not so much. Like I feel like this is a little bit. We could say cheesy. We could say sentimental. It's definitely like a slightly different temperament, I think, than a lot of Twilight Zones. So
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think, other than the To Serve Man, which you should be covering within the next week or so,
that
other
is
than
correct.
that episode, I don't think there's ever been a real like disturbing alien invasion episode of Twilight Zone.
Well, the Invaders does it in reverse. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. But
uh,
I don't know if I ever told, I think I side with the Invaders with that one.
I will say
They don't
next
seem as bad to me. I kind of get more annoyed with Agnes Moorehead in that one.
the next week is kind of a dip into the disturbing with another little girl. Next week is little girl lost. So
Yeah.
that is an interesting coin flip from the
You
fugitive.
know, have you ever seen that episode before? Until this,
yes. I don't
that
want to
is
spoil it here, by the way,
that's
but
yeah. I'm not going to spoil anything, but that's one I don't go back and watch. Hmm, that's
it's
one I don't.
and
Yeah.
maybe it's one that's one where I don't remember the specifics because I haven't
I mean,
gotten
it's
back there
Richard
yet. But
Matheson. He's usually good, but just that's one Richard Matheson story I didn't care for.
I think and with again without spoiling, I think the base story of that, which I won't talk about now, but has been like kind of reused so much in science fiction
Yeah,
that
I
that
know
people
exactly what you're getting to. Yeah, we won't.
look at
Won't
this as
yeah.
like the source. It's kind of like how maybe I like the Beatles better than well, I don't want to say Chuck Berry. I actually like Chuck Berry just about as much as the Beatles, but like obviously, like people can synthesize earlier art and make something better, but you still have to credit the original art.
And I want to get back to one more creepy line by Ben. Um, Ben said, "You better start wearing a dress, or your aunt will throw a fit." Um,
Yeah. Again,
why?
it's 1962, I guess.
Yeah, that was
I
just so random. I guess even more that just felt random to me. Not as just like when is anything about wearing a dress brought up in this?
I did notice that my daughter went to go see the Little Mermaid remake a few weeks
Hmm.
ago, and I don't know this is a. Since then, every time we go somewhere, she wears a dress, which I mean, that's fine, do that. But yeah,
Yeah.
yesterday we accidentally went on like a notable mountain hike. I'm wearing not this Hawaiian shirt, but a different Hawaiian shirt. She's wearing a dress. Everyone else is like wearing like trucker gear, right? So it was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But
She wore good shoes though, right? She didn't like wear flip
oh
flops or
yes,
nothing.
correct. She did
I was
that.
gonna
Yeah,
say she's all like flip flops and dress, sun hat. Like,
which made it look like slightly funny because she's wearing like a sundress and then like sneakers. So, but
yeah,
it that turned out she needed the sneakers. So good call.
yeah. And
I could have worn
like
better shoes.
like you said, this was 50s and 60s, and we didn't think like this. Like, there's a lot of things in this episode that I really didn't think like this, like until I saw somebody else talk about it. Like, that's I guess how we are sometimes. Like, you don't notice things yourself until somebody else points it out. You know what I
Oh, for
mean?
sure. Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
I
And
mean,
I wanted to ask you, on IMDb, this got a 7.5
really?
out of
Okay.
10.
Yeah, that's a
And I noticed with IMDb, 7 and 7.5 seems to be like like the average magic number around there. Like, would you say this is a 7.5? I
yeah,
I
you
don't know.
usually
I
don't
don't
think too. It's not. I don't hate this episode, but
Yeah,
it
I
is
don't hate
one
it
of
either. It's just it seems like one of the weak, like I would even say, like, I know one of the questions usually I think you ask is like, you you don't always ask like, do you have to watch this one or would you skip? I would say like you could skip this one. You don't even have to watch it really.
it's probably skippable, but it's
Yeah.
not one to actively avoid either. I would say
Yeah. Yeah.
it's kind of there. It's one I'm going to forget about within 2 weeks, and I'll have to look at my list later and be like, oh, there's a fugitive. Okay, oh yeah,
Yeah.
now I remember it. I mean, I can look at my list now and
I
find
wonder how people were in the 60s when they saw Showdown with Ransom McGrew, Kick the Can, Piano in the House, and the Last
it.
Rites. And then it went bam to Serve Man. And then like, oh, I'm freaking disturbed now. Like, I don't know about this.
there
Everything was all peachy the past couple weeks. Now these aliens want to get to us.
Yeah, the back half of this one does. I'm looking at the list, and there's a few other that I remember being a touch lighter. So, um,
I'm kind of curious. I'm curious when you get to 4 o'clock too, because that's one episode that drives a lot of people up the wall. They call the guy like a male Karen, basically. Like he's the original Karen. I don't know if that term's in Japan. Do you know what a Karen is?
yes, but it's not a term in Japan.
Yeah, no, we're
Just because
so
I still see,
yeah,
from social media or whatever. So,
yeah. But that's an episode that really doesn't. I actually really like it.
recently I've been hearing more about the Helen. Do you know the Helen?
No,
This is a Chuck E. Cheese reference where I think all of the characters in the Chuck E. Cheese band had like proper names, and then there was Helen. The idea of being like the female character that you just don't flesh out at all for no particular reason. So I feel more sorry for a Helen. I think they finally did give her a last name, but for years she didn't like even have like a last name or something.
what's sad about Chuck E. Cheese is I don't know if it's still that way in, or I don't know if it's the way in Japan, but they don't have the animatronic stage no more.
Yeah, they're I think you might still be able to find a few, but yeah, most of them are gone. Japan doesn't have Chuck E. Cheese. I did find a animatronic Charles Darwin a few weeks ago at a science museum. So that was kind
Yeah.
of fun. Really, really janky movement and bellowing in Japanese. So
Have you ever seen
actually,
that Nicolas Cage movies? God, what is it called? Willy's Wonderland.
I am not. Oh, is that where that's the one where he's like a security guard at a theme park or something?
Yeah, and it's like evil Chuck E. Cheese animatronic things. It's like a Five Night Freddy's Chuck E. Cheese type thing. Like,
Yeah, there was a
yeah, it's
time
pretty.
when we were actually going to do a Patreon where Luke made me play Five Nights at Freddy, but then apparently the creator got canceled or something, so he didn't want he don't want to
I've
do that
never
anymore.
actually played it, but my buddy's kid was into it. He had a real obsession with it.
What else? I'm just looking through my notes to see if there's anything I missed. I there was a nice 1962 synth sound. The kind that you'd get in early Doctor Who. I like that. Um, well, okay, let's talk about the ending a little bit. Um,
Okay.
I wrote a note that I assume this is how the Parent Trap ended, uh, with Haley Mills or whatever. Which it actually did turn out when I was doing my trivia that Mrs. Gann, sorry, Nancy Culp was it? Yeah, she actually was in the Parent Trap. So that was a little personal connection.
I'm glad
But
you brought up the 60s one too, because everybody nowadays just thinks, oh, Lindsay Lohan, Parent Trap. It's like, no, there was a 60s version too.
well, I notoriously have inexplicable love for the TV show Saved by the Bell, which started
Yeah.
out as Haley Mills' show as an
Yeah, Miss Good
adult.
Morning,
So
Miss Bliss. Yeah,
so
she
of
was Miss
course
Bliss.
I'm so right. So of
Yeah.
course my mind is going to go to the Haley Mills Parent Trap. I've never watched either of them, to be perfectly
Yeah.
honest. So, but I went back in time a little bit. I saw Freaky Friday, yeah, and isn't there one with what is the late '70s
The
one
Jodie
with like
Foster one? The Jodie Foster one? That's the one, right? Or the Lindsay Lohan one? Jodie
oh
Foster was a
oh
'70s one.
Jodie Foster. By
Yeah,
the time the other one came out, I had no
yeah.
interest in seeing
And
it.
then
So
supposedly they're making another Freaky Friday.
yeah.
Crazy.
Well, Fridays never cease to be freaky. So they're either casual or they're freaky. That's how Fridays work. Do you want to throw out any other observations before we get to the questioning?
I was thinking, wouldn't it be funny? Because because can we bring up what happens at the end here? Like how
Oh yeah, for sure.
Ben, so Ben and Jenny, they're the two men in black, they want to take Ben back to his planet after he told Jenny that he's a king, and he abandoned his reign. He came here to Earth. He doesn't want to leave, obviously, so Jenny whispers into her ear. The men in black think nothing of this. So Jenny turns into a double.
Keep in
And
mind the
so
men
they
in
end
black
up,
are palace servants. This isn't like their actual job, right?
yeah. So they're
So
easy to hoodwink, like they're easy to get one over on. So when the little girl turns into another version of herself, which is J. Pat O'Malley, they have no choice but to take both of them back. But what I was thinking, wouldn't it have been funny if as soon as they went back, he changed back to king, they imprisoned him for abandoning the throne, and then they sent her back to the end.
I
That
was
could be
about to
one
say,
ending.
and they dissected her.
Oh yeah. She was the first one to be probed ever.
No, I want to go with they both stay on Earth and start an ice cream company called Ben and Jenny's. So
Oh, Ben and Jenny's.
yeah,
That is a good one.
that's my ending. Okay, that might be a really bad one. That's a dad joke.
But so this is what so I've been bringing up before we get to trivia or the questions. This is what was kind of what might spark. I'm trying to. How am I going to say this? This might spark some thoughts into people's mind because Rod has a closing narration in this. He actually appears on screen with a closing narration. He doesn't do this too often, but he's sitting there. He's holding a picture of what Ben looks like in his real form on his home planet. And he says, Miss Gann will be in for a big surprise when she finds us under Jenny's pillow. Because Miss Gann has more temper than imagination. She'll never dream that this is a picture of old Ben as he really looks, and it will never occur to her that eventually her niece will grow up to be an honest to goodness queen somewhere in the Twilight Zone. See, I think that's the one that hits home with people when they said that this girl is going to grow up to one day to be his queen. Like, I guess people might take that as grooming. I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
that's another 2020 term, 2020's term. Like, we didn't know what the hell grooming was back in the day. Like,
what if they said princess? I mean, I'm looking at the text. Of course, they say queen, but
yeah,
would it be more okay with princess? I don't know.
yeah. Or I
Yeah.
thought of somebody else said this. Like, what if he just handed out like they didn't become queen and king together, but like she stayed with him and he turned over the reins to her eventually.
Yeah, that actually was my first like trying to work this out to not be like super creepy thought that
Yeah.
she'll be
I'm sorry I've made this episode so dark, but I know there's points that other people brought up that it's like I guess I had to bring them up too because we're doing a podcast about it.
Yeah, no, it's right there in the closing narration. So it's
Yeah.
definitely yeah. Why wouldn't you just say princess? It also maybe we've seen too many Disney movies, but it's like the younger younger woman, call her a princess, right? Which maybe that's wrong. I don't know.
And another thing about an ending, I like to think that the aunt descended into madness, not knowing what happened. She just kind of ended up in her own like world and just
I
went
mean, she
mad
might have
because
already been there. I mean, in
yeah.
her own. I mean, clearly she was not well adjusted.
What was so weird is she was bipolar, okay? Because it's like she was so like you little gutter snipe and quit talking to yourself and this and that and a couple other things she called her. But then as soon as she goes down, it's like, oh, what was me? This is that like, oh, please don't let anything. They told her is she gonna die? Well, if her pulse doesn't improve, oh no. Like
Well,
now you care.
when I was doing the trivia and looking at the proper names listed, which maybe they listed in the beginning of the show too. I don't know, but it's Mrs. Gann. Mr.
Yeah.
Gann doesn't seem to be there, so we could assume that Mr. Gann has one left her, two
Yeah.
died. Both of which maybe leave Mrs. Gann in not the best of mental states.
I'm not,
Possibly. I
I'm
mean, I'm not saying that she. I'm just saying that's what happened. Like, I'm not saying she.
yeah.
You could have resilient women too, where this does not happen. But
Maybe he couldn't be as resilient being married to her, so he
yeah,
disappeared.
maybe she was always like that. I don't know. But I mean, there's a whole story where she's kind of a bit of a broken person, right? And
Yeah.
we're just seeing the nasty fallout of it. So
Or in a perfect world, what happens is maybe this freed up her time to become, what was she a bank manager? Or what was she in Beverly Hillbillies? But that freed up her time to become Miss Jane Hathaway.
yeah. This is where her life truly started.
Yeah, that kid
She
was
needed
holding her back. Now she
Miss,
doesn't have the kid to hold her back no more.
Mr. Gann and Jenny need to be out of there. So
So, oh, and another thing, I didn't think of this until just now. So, okay. So even if he was going to make her queen and it did lead to like a relationship or something, so what happens with her age? Because she doesn't have the ability to live 5,000 years, does she, or 1,000 years, or
that's
does she get the ability once she comes to that planet?
who wants to live forever? Oh no, that's the Highlander problem, right?
Yeah.
So you can look at it that way if you want. What was the other one I was thinking of? Highlander's good enough. I'll leave it at that.
Please
But
tell me that's on your guys' films and filth list. One of
it's
those Highlander movies.
it's on neither. It's not on either list, but we have done a podcast for it that I can point you towards. So
Oh, okay, yes. Sci-Fi Sanctuary, huh?
yes,
Yes.
but yeah, that would be my basic thought for that. So um, I guess I will go ahead and do those questions then.
Yeah,
So
go
who
ahead
in
and
this
shoot.
episode entered or went through the Twilight Zone?
Okay, this might be one of the few times that we actually say this, but can I say that nobody entered the Twilight Zone?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Would that be passable? Like, would you actually agree with that? Because I don't. This is just like, I mean, it's just an alien thing, but it's not like Jenny was in the Twilight Zone. I mean, it's
Right,
just,
she's complicit. Right. I was not gonna put. I don't quite agree, but I was not gonna put Jenny in the Twilight Zone because
yeah,
she's having the trip she's kind of wants, I guess, or she's being groomed, like you said.
yeah.
um, it's
I
not,
mean,
but
old Ben, he's not in the Twilight Zone. I mean, he's in a different setting from his home planet.
and
Miss
and if
Gann,
and if
she's on
we're
the Twilight Zone.
yeah, and I'm not putting Little Saint James in the Twilight Zone. That's a different thing. If you're taking that angle, so that island is not in the Twilight Zone.
Yeah,
I actually would say Mrs. Gann maybe because she's experiencing these inexplicable events that ends with her ward vanishing. So um, I might say Mrs. We don't identify with Mrs. Gann because she's so so horrible, but she does have a twilight. Like if she was a more sympathetic character, it might be more like clear like this woman is experiencing Twilight Zone stuff.
yeah.
So
I,
I always like the nobody went through answer, but and my answer would be she did. So yeah. As far as who deserves what though, I guess the question does go to Jenny because she's kind of like the main character here. Um, it's kind of hard to say that for Ben because he's thousands of years old and I mean, he's the doctor basically. There we go. That's how you kind of clean up the situation. You got the doctor and his companions who, until the past few years, I guess companions have never been quite romantic, have they? Rose a little bit, but I don't know how much Doctor Who but yeah, that's kind of the doctor has companions.
yeah.
Often it's well in his case probably like attractive 20-year-olds or whatever sometimes, but or the original doctor was he was just a teacher or professor. I think that actual younger children followed around because it was supposed to be educational at first. So yeah. I just got myself in a cul-de-sac. I don't know how I got there.
I, could you say um when we're saying who deserves to go in the Twilight Zone, I guess, and you're saying, since you gave an answer, when I said nobody, and I'm just going to go with your answer, when you said Miss Gann, I
Sure.
guess, did she deserve it? Did she deserve it? Because she's not like the best guardian.
Yeah, she's not being painted with the full like this is a psychotic scumbag brush that Rod paints some of our nastier protagonists with. So she doesn't get that brush. But so I mean, because we don't have Rod like just like talking smack about her at the beginning, you do start to wonder, is this person a little more redeemable, I guess.
And when she finds that note, does she even try to call the police? Like, what's her first thing she even tries to do? Like,
Just
that's why I
shrugs
was
and
like, does
goes
she just
on.
slip into a state of confusion? And like, what happened? Like, and she's just like, she's just stuck in this alternate reality. Like, she's stuck, like, never knowing whatever happened to Jenny. She wants to believe the letter, but it can't be true.
Yeah. I mean, maybe this a few extra drafts of this script, and you might have her being like kind of the main character.
I
Flesh her
I
out a little more.
noticed if you go on IMDb, they have some at the end. They have a little more dialogue that I guess got cut. So if anyone wants to go research, I was going to read it on here, but I decided not to. But yeah, there's a little more back and forth. Jenny questioning a few things before they go back to the home planet.
Oh,
So if
okay,
anybody
I
wants to
didn't
look that up on
miss that.
IMDb, there's some. I never. That's the first time I've ever seen that stuff on the cutting room floor. Twilight Zone.
um, where do you want to place this one on the tripometer then?
Oh damn.
Of course, 0 is not trippy. 5's pretty trippy.
Okay, the only reason I'm gonna go with a point here. I'm gonna go with a 0.5. And that's the only reason is because it has an alien invasion. That's the only reason that you could say anything trippy about it. Like there's an alien from another planet. If it
You,
wasn't for an alien from another planet being here, I don't think this episode would be that trippy.
I'm giving it 2 just for the alien props, the whisk,
Okay.
the monster, the alien monster theme at the beginning, and the process shot of the 2 Jennies. I'm just like, those are at least trippy
Well, I
images.
guess I'll bump it up to a 1 because you got those magic things that could disable and fix Jenny. Because remember, the guys used to disable her, and then Ben used it to fix her leg. So I guess I'll bump it up to a 1 just because that's those machines are trippy.
Yeah, but yeah, for the most part, thinking about this episode, it's those 3 images that come to mind first. I'm like, oh, all of those have enough stock for me. At least go at 2. Just to answer your question about recent episodes, I have noticed my tripometer scores being somewhat lower recently, so that might be reflected by
I was gonna
a lot of
I don't
westerns, hillbilly, and comedy episodes.
and off the top of my head right now, I don't know if any episode's gonna hit the perfect 5 like Shadowplay did with the
uh,
Twilight Zone. Has
that
there?
could be the case. We'll see. I'm looking at this season.
Oh, maybe the Shatner episode, Nightmare at 20,000. That's
I
pretty,
I do
that
love
could.
it, but I don't know if I'd give that a 5.
Well, he's tripping balls, man. Like
Oh, he
you
is, he is, yeah. But again, it's this came up when we did the monsters are doing Maple Street. Is it
yeah.
trippy or are they just tripping? So
That's more paranoia, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, I guess we'll pull. Yeah, we both say our numbers. I guess we'll pull this one into the station for today. Then take it to an alien planet and become queens ourselves. Um, as for this, it's Time Enough Podcast. It is that on Twitter. It is that on Facebook. You can follow us under the Patreon umbrella of Podcastio Podcastius, where we've been talking throughout this episode about other podcasts that you can find there, like Films and Filth, where we talk about really good movies and supposedly really good movies, supposedly really bad movies. We sometimes disagree with that label. Occult Disney, where we get into where these people did some voice acting with the animated Disney films. And for the gamers, you've got Hyrule Field Report about Zelda, the game show, where gamers game each other about games, and Luke loves Pokemon. I don't need to tell you what that's about, I think. I don't know. There's probably, I guess there'd be a few people that are like into the Twilight Zone never encountered Pokemon. So, yeah, you know. And then there's a little older crowd. I'll have to ask my dad if he knows anything about Pokemon.
As a Patreon member, I say it's worth it. And it's only, you can only, $1 is all you need to sign up. And you get
Yeah.
so much content. You get more than $1 worth there.
And then
And you
sometimes you
get
start getting
episodes.
called up to do episodes.
Yeah. And you get episodes before other people do.
Yeah, yeah. Get to be on them in some cases. Okay, I'm gonna turn into a mouse now. I'm gonna be Maddie Mouse.
Matty Mouse. Okay.
Oh, that was
Bye
confusing because we bring
bye.
yeah, that was confusing because we bring up a Maddie on the podcast a lot. That's not me. So, oh well.
Yeah.
People just have to deal with that. Well, I'm gonna go get my delayed breakfast because yeah, I was about to eat breakfast and I was like, hey, and then the new morning came up. And I was like, I might want to wait on this. So
Yeah. Hey, just can I keep you for like a minute or two just to ask you something? I
yeah,
just
no
want to ask you
problem.
two questions.
Sure.
So just so I have a time frame, because I know you schedule everything, right? Like you got all your dates already mapped out, or you only got like a month planned out right now.
Oh, I have list for Twilight Zone. I have a list all the way through season 3. Films and Filth, I actually have a complete list.
So
So
just so I know when I'm ready, I guess when's Cavalier's coming, so I know when to be ready.
it airs on November 5th. So recording would likely be um probably early October because my parents are visiting in the middle of October. So
Okay.
I might try and not do so much podcasting while they're here. So
Yeah. And then one other thing, can I see that list for the films and filth? You since you have them all, would
yes,
you be
I there's been discussion I should post it somewhere.
or I should say, I know you got a hand, would you be able to send it to me or is it only handwritten?
I can send it to you.
Okay. Like just
I'll
send
just
it through Patreon or whatever.
Yeah, I'll just send it through the messages because actually I'll ask you since because Luke was like, why don't you just post the list? Which I was like, well, if I do that Patreon, I'll be lost within a month, because it'll be so
Yeah.
far down in the mix. Um, I was thinking of suggesting to them of doing like a 30-minute episode where we just talk about our expectations for say numbers 90 to 81. Like, what do we think that is going to happen when we watch these? Is that interesting? Like, let me find
You
my
broke up
list.
a little bit there.
Oh, yeah, hold on. I'm looking for 73. I have all these papers like badly organized. Um, where is it? Oh, here we go. So rather than posting it, I was thinking of doing a bonus episode where, say, we would talk about what we expect from Toy Story, The Love Guru, The Hunt, I Know Who Killed Me, and the next 10 movies on the list. So if you listen to that episode, you know what's coming up for like the next 3 months at that point. Um, Rather than just physically posting the list because I kind of I like to have a little suspense too of what's going to be on the list. So uh is an expectations episode interesting, I guess, is my question.
Uh you're just cutting.
Okay, seems I'm back.